Hey everyone, we've got people joining now, so we'll wait a few more minutes to get some more people on before we start. Won't be long. Okay, people are slowly building. Give it a few more minutes. Okay, I reckon we might get started just to respect the people that have all been on time. And so, look, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us tonight. This is actually our first webinar that we've done with not just a doctor doing a presentation about how DM works and the workflows in their practice. We're lucky to have Rob MacDonald from Mac Team Consulting. So look, what we'll do as just a running sheet is Rob will do his section first. He'll go through all his bits and pieces, and then we'll get Steve on after that. We want to sort of finish up, just after the hour, and we'll have questions, after both sessions. So also, if you want to ask some questions, please hands up. No problems at all. Okay, so look, firstly, I'd really like to thank Rob MacDonald from Macteam Consulting. I have met Rob through my days at Invisalign, where he was the sales trainer there. Rob will give you a little bit more about his background. Um, Rob also did a couple of sessions for Lightforce when I was out there helping Matt build the business in the early days. He did a fantastic job, made us really think about what we were doing. And I've been in sales for many years, and it really made me have to rethink some things as well. So we're never too old to learn. And so please take in as much information as you can. So, Rob, I'll hand it over to you. Thank you. And thank you for everyone participating in their own time.
Thank you, Demi. Really appreciate that. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Perfect. Great. I do appreciate that intro, and I also really appreciate the opportunities to speak to everybody tonight on an event that probably normally you don't hear from a person around culture. Some people on the call probably sitting thinking, well, I came to talk or listen to information on DM. Why is this crazy Scotsman talking about culture? Well, culture for me has become one of the biggest and most important parts of my business, especially over the last 16 months. So the statement on the screen says, is this the most significant risk to your business in 2025? And I'm not trying to be dramatic and I'm not trying to scare people. It genuinely is such a big topic and a really important topic. And I feel that it does relate really closely to what we're going to talk about this evening. So trust me, come with me on the journey and let me share my thoughts and some of what we are seeing out there in the market for the first part of 2025. But who are Mac Team? Well, Mac Team's made up of my lovely wife and business partner, Amanda. And just recently, we brought on Dan Bellelli, who many of you probably know. Dan has got a huge amount of experience in the industry and has probably worked with or knows most of you on the call tonight. And Amanda and I have been working across basically the global business, but always been in dental or orthodontics. And just the other night, we were working at how many years of combined experience we've got. And we actually have 74 years of combined dental experience between the three of us, which is quite scary. Some of the companies we've worked with in the past over those 27, 17 years, you see on the screen now. So we have a lot of experience, but it's not just in Australia, it's across Europe, Middle East, Africa, the APAC region, and also the Americas. So I think we do bring quite a nice perspective and quite a good understanding of what's going out there in the industry. Here are just some of the customers that we've been working with over the last 16 months that Mac Team has existed. We work with both dental companies, like Demi said, we work with Lightforce, and now tonight we're doing some work on the DM session. We've worked with some dental companies like SDI, but we really do focus on that orthodontic space. And we've worked with Central Coast Orthodontics, Peter Grant, and obviously Nino Gallotta as well, who was one of our first customers in our new business. So again, we're very passionate. We really, truly love working in this industry. And as Demi said, he met me first of all at Align Technology, where I was the sales trainer, the clinical trainer, the behavioral trainer. I did culture. I trained basically most of the teams that came through the Invisalign business for the 10-year growth period from 2013 upwards. But over the last 16 months, I thought that I would spend most of my time talking to orthodontists and dental companies about how to help them sell. And as Demi said, I've got a very kind of unique perspective on that. And I'm actually writing a book called Selling Doesn't Exist, Only Buying Does. And I naively thought that I'd come out in the industry and that's what I'd be talking about most of the time. But exclusively what I've been talking about, myself, Amanda, and now Dan, is culture. And culture makes up such a massive part of what is going on in 2025, but really it's been coming as a big major part of business over the last 10 years. So the reason why when Demi said he was having a session tonight about DM and Dr. Steve Semaan was going to speak, I said, look, I'd love to get on and I'd love to talk about culture. And it really comes down to this statement here. And the customers that I work with and the people that when I go into practice, we ask these sorts of questions. Have you tried to implement a product and failed? And I really want everybody on the call tonight to think about that. And even if you're not a practice owner, if you work in a practice, I want you to think about, have you tried to implement a product and it's failed? Then I want to ask you another question. Do you think it was the product or it was the practice and the willingness to implement it in the practice? Now, I'm not saying it's always the practice, but in most cases, these products are very good. It tends to be a reason why we just don't implement it and it just doesn't work. We hear it so often when we ask a customer, have you tried this? Yes, I've tried this product. Why don't you still use it? Oh, it just didn't work in this practice. So we can't keep saying that. And it really comes down to one thing for me. And it comes down to this word change. And I use this little caption and this little picture so many times over the years. I've done it in, Amsterdam when I was living and working there. I've used it in APAC in America, even here in the ANZ region. And it's so true. When we say who wants change, sorry, when we ask that question, who wants change? Everybody puts their hand up. But when we ask the question, who wants to change, they tend to start retracting their hand very quickly because people want to see change happen, but they don't necessarily want to be the people to make that change happen. And here's the thing, the big thing for me, when we're talking about leaders, and leaders don't have to just be practice owners, leaders can be anybody in a business who lead the team, who drive the change. When we ask who wants to lead the change, in most cases, the room empties because it's really quite a scary topic. But when we think about implementing a new product, or whether it's DM or another product out there in the market, something that's highly technological, something that is going to make the practice need to change or the people need to change, we passionately work with customers to help that time for change to happen now. And that's really what Mac Team is all about. Now, just at this point, I should mention, some of you on the call might be thinking, I've seen this Scottish guy on LinkedIn and it said Mac Team Consulting. And now he's got this logo that says Mac Team Practice Growth Specialist. Well, yeah, over the last 16 months, we've evolved. We've had to change. We realized that consulting didn't make sense for our business. We are, and we believe we are, and our customers feel we are, practice growth specialists. We walk into a practice and we ask a customer simple questions. We try to understand what are their goals, what are their objectives, and we help them achieve them. But it comes from change. So that's why we changed our name, and that's why you're seeing our new logo and our new branding. Steve actually knows this because I met him last year at the ASO, but one of the questions that I ask every single customer that we meet and we have a discovery session with, we ask this question. We say, are you willing to accept that it could be you? So we walk into a practice, they tell us all the challenges, all the things that are happening. And we ask that question, are you willing to accept it could be you? Now, my little cool AI picture here of a doctor with his finger pointing, he's wearing some headphones. And the reason why he's wearing headphones is because some people are deaf to that loud noise that's happening around about them, that it could potentially be them that may be the problem in the practice, but it doesn't mean they are. They just have to be able to accept that it could be them, because change happens from top to bottom and bottom to top. And when we work with a customer, we want to make sure that every single person in that practice is ready, or at least willing to be ready to change. So we love to ask that first question, and we love to get right in to understand where is the mindset and the sort of attitude of our customers. Because if we want to make sure they can achieve their goals and objectives, we first of all need to know if every single person, including the owner, is willing to change. But culture is so important, and culture and teamwork is built from the ground up. Yeah. It's not just one person, it's built from the ground up. Now, I want everybody to grab your mobile phones. So, everybody that's on the call, grab your mobile phones. And I want you to, well, hopefully this next slide is going to come up, but you can test so many times, Demi, but sometimes it just doesn't want to load. Just give me a second. There we go. So I want you to scan the QR code, and I want everybody on the call, whether you're a business owner or not, scan the QR code. It will open up the Menti, and it's anonymous, right? So nobody's going to know. Nobody's going to know what you've said. We just want to get a feel for the room. Scan the QR code and select the culture that's in your business. Now, you might be the practice owner, you might be somebody else working there. Now, what I will say is you're starting to go through and select and actually choose something. I've got these options: best culture ever, good culture, average culture. And the one there that says poor, I've actually used the family-friendly term, because most businesses that we speak to when we're having these conversations, they use the term something show, and it begins with S. So there are people out there who feel that their culture's so bad, and I'm probably sure we can use the word, but I won't, that it really is that area, that it's such a bad situation that they feel like it is a show. So we'll get a few people have selected. How many people have we got on, Demi? Just so that I know how.
34. So lots of people haven't done this.
We need a lot more people
Oh,
to.
guys, please do it. Do it, do it, do it.
Absolutely. There's absolutely no judgment in this, right? We often do this in the practice as well, live, when we're doing some of our sessions, to kind of get a feel of where people actually think the culture is. All right, we've got 14. Couple more. We'll give it a couple of seconds. People are scrambling for their phones. I can't believe we don't all have our phone in our hand already. Like, come on. All right, I'm going to move on because I've only got 30 minutes. But I think it's quite interesting that, of the two answers, we got good culture and average, right? Well, we got best culture ever. I hope that was somebody from Mac team that selected that one. Woo! That's got to be the case, right? No, I'm sure somebody did select best culture ever, and it does happen, right? But again, we're always asking our customers to go from good to great, and that's what we're trying to achieve. But what it shows, even just with the 15 people that I've selected, 7 of them felt that the culture in the practice was below where it should be. That average number is not where you want it to be. Great, we're getting a few more, good culture. And later on, I'm going to share some statistics that I really hope that you start to see that culture is way more important than you think it is. And really, if we're at average culture and even good culture, everybody on this call should be trying to get their business, their practice, and their engagement up to that best culture ever. So thanks for sharing, thanks for interacting, and we'll move on. So I'll tell you a story very quickly, and I'm not going to name the company. I've worked for many companies, so you won't be able to tell who it was. But I remember a company HR director coming to me years ago and saying, Rob, we know you're the sales trainer, we know you're the behavioral trainer, but we're HR, and we think that the business is growing so fast. We want to bring a new culture to the business. We want to bring in a company who are the best rated cultural training company in the world, and they're going to teach us a new culture. And I kind of reeled back in my seat when they told me, and I used this exact phrase. I said, you can't teach culture. I said, you need to create it. And that's the big difference. Our job at Mac Team is not to teach culture, it's to help create the right culture for you and your business. Just like anybody who wants to talk about culture or be that behavioral engagement consultant or trainer, they should be helping you create it based on your values and your needs. So if you can't teach it and you need to create it, is it really worthwhile? Is it that important for you to do something about it? Well, here are some insights. And again, at Mac Team, we talk about the fact that facts don't have feelings, but facts help us make decisions and really strategic and effective decisions that make us more effective. But look, the influence of company culture and employee experience, 70% of employees prioritize culture over salary. Now, I'm sure some people on the phone and on Zoom tonight are saying, yeah, Rob, but people really do care about money. What I can tell you is we see that money is a short-term manipulation, and eventually poor culture will take over and will impact a business. You can have 102% higher employee satisfaction if you have a thriving culture. So, the people who said that you were average, just think about if we could improve that, what impact that would make to your business, your environment, and your team satisfaction. 85% of employees will speak well about a business who have a strong culture. If we look at loyalty and company culture in another way, 58% of employees, this is scary, would switch jobs for a better culture. We hear that all the time. Demi said that I spoke at the Lightforce, or I worked a bit with Lightforce last year and this year. And I spoke at an event last year for Lightforce, and we did a cultural session, and we did it with the staff, and the doctors were in another room. And you would not believe how many staff members came up to me after that session and said, Rob, how do we tell our boss that we need some cultural training, that we need some help? Yeah. Now, that tells me two things. It tells me that they need help, but it also tells me that they don't have psychological safety and they don't feel comfortable to bring that to their leader, not just the owner, but the manager or whoever it is that is responsible for that leadership and culture within the practice. 43% of employees would leave for a 10% pay rise. It's not the 10%, it's the fact that they're willing to leave just for 10%. Yeah. And 74% of employees feel demotivated by poor cultural fit. Now, we don't have enough time to talk about toxic work environments, and when we're in practices and businesses, we talk about radiators and drains who suck the life out of you and take all the goodness away, all the hard work that goes on in practice. Radiators are the people that really are the ones that are driving culture and helping it happen. But 38% of employees want to quit due to toxic culture. So your good people are wanting to leave because of your drains, your bad people. And 58% of employees are affected by negative office politics. And 30% have left due to workplace conflict. They've left already. They're gone. They're out of your practice. Now, again, we talked about, have you tried to implement a product and have you failed? Well, I know many customers who have, and I'm not having a go. This is not a beat up. This is me saying that, we have to do things differently. And for anybody on the call who's thinking about or is using DM and thinking about doing more, or thinking about implementing DM into their practice, it can be really effective and it can make a big impact. But what I'm trying to say is culture and the team dynamic and the change is as important as the product implementation. Because we see 4 times revenue growth with strong culture, 4 times. Who in the call would like 4 times revenue growth in 2025? I would. Yep, Demi would too. 90% of employers believe a cultural fit is crucial. Now, we can believe it's crucial, but how much do we actually do to make sure it happens? Yeah. And 27% increase in revenue per employee with high talented managers. I want everybody, if you have a leader in your business and they're not performing and they're not bringing the talent along, they're failing your business. It doesn't mean we have to let them go. It means we have to train them. We have to bring them along. We have to bring them up from that good to great. Leaders are so important in shaping culture. And in fact, in some of the practices we're working in right now, we are building leaders. We're creating an environment where leaders can thrive, bring the business on and take that business from not just good to great, but to the best. 76% of employees say that managers set the tone for culture. If your manager isn't doing it, these other insights start to become prevalent. 42% of employees feel leaders don't contribute positively, and 66% of employees report positive culture due to leadership. So 66% say that culture comes from positive leadership. And it's not a one and done. We tell all of our clients, we tell the companies we work with, it's not just about we want to work with you for a long period of time, but 80% of people believe culture must evolve for success, evolve. And for my customers that are on the call, and I think I saw Nino pop up, I talk about it all the time. It's evolution, not revolution. Yeah. And 23% say that culture change efforts often fail. Just like implementation of new products can fail, culture change fails as well. Because guess what? It's hard. Yeah. Nobody says it was going to be easy, but with the right people, the right approach, with the right goals, with the right strategy, it can happen. And culture for me is like the foundations of a skyscraper. We have these beautiful big buildings that sit majestically up into the sky. The sun glints on them. These are like your business. Beautiful practices with great patience and good staff, and maybe some staff that are creating bad culture. But what happens when a storm comes or a cyclone like here in Queensland? We need to have strong foundations to ensure that we can maintain that building through the rough times, through the bad weather, and through the shaky times. So culture is about shared values, beliefs, attitudes, guiding people to work together in an organization and being goals focused. And that's really important. And again, we don't have a lot of time tonight to talk about it, but goals focused is important. But the way that we at Mac Team can create that solid foundation is we layer over DISC, which is our behavioral training program that we use to solidify and make that foundation as strong as it possibly can be so that we can build the biggest, highest, tallest building and the most successful business that we can. And it's simple, right? Impact a good culture. And this is not from a book. This is from what we experience. Enhance patient experience, improve communication, higher employee satisfaction and retention, professional growth and development. Resilience. Listen, it's tough out there, right? We need resilient people, and it's possible. And some people say to me, but Rob, younger generations, they're just not as resilient. We haven't trained them. We haven't brought them on the journey, and we haven't supported them in making it happen. Adaptability. We have to make people adaptable. Things are going to change. Change is round the corner. Yeah. Trust and accountability. Let's get away from all those stats. Let's bring the business into the future. Let's create trust and accountability. Innovation and improvement. Perfect for today's conversation. An innovative product like DM, and Steve's obviously going to talk about aligners in a second. And that's where we're going to talk about how you bring those two things together to maximize it. And finally, happiness, right? Happiness. That is so important. But very quickly, we do this in many different ways. We think that DISC is the foundation of everything we do. But here's the thing. On this call, you may be saying, I've used DISC before, Rob. If it's DISC without the small I, you haven't used the same. Not all DISC systems are made equal, just like not all consultants or practice growth firms are. Yeah. We use DISC in a very structured way. It creates the foundation of everything we do so that we can build the best, strongest culture and the most effective and efficient business that we can and help customers achieve the goals that they want. And here's a little gift for you. If you want to take the free of charge little simple DISC test, scan the QR code. It will pop up an email. Send me an email. We'll send you the DISC assessment. And if you complete it, if you struggle to complete it, email me again. Contact me, speak to me. We'll tell you your results. And we'll give you a little short debrief on what that means for you, your style, and what impact it could make to your practice and your team. Again, if you want to see that QR code after the session, just let me know, and I will send that through to whoever needs it. This is a very simple free assessment that we do for people, but when we want to take things to the next level, we go in depth. And DISC is broken down into these 4 styles. They're also known as different names. So dominance, influence, steadiness, and conscientiousness. We use different terms. You see them on the screen. But just so you know, directors or dominance, they're the bottom line, no nonsense, get to the point, great administrators, delegators, but not very good listeners. Of all 4 styles, and I'm going to repeat that for anybody who is in that category, they're the worst listeners. And for them, they're the worst listeners because they don't have the time and they already know the answer, right? Thinkers or analytical people, great planners, problem solvers, organizers, great at creating systems, are highly inventive. They're very intellectual people. So if you want something done right, give it to a thinker. Now, if you want it done on time, think again. Because they're trying to get what they try to get it done? They're trying to get it done perfect. Yeah, try to get it done absolutely perfect. What about relators, amiable people? They seek harmony, close personal one-to-one relationships. They're great team players, loyal, incredible listeners. They're the glue that holds a team together. They don't like conflict. They don't like to rock the boat, and they tend to go along with things. It's easy to hurt their feelings. Even when you hurt their feelings, you won't know it. They won't show it, but they'll pull out their little black book and they'll write Demi's name and they'll put a little check mark beside it, right? Socializers, the socializer, performer, influencer. Socializers' goals are fun, excitement, applause, visibility, recognition. As a result, they talk a lot about their favorite subject, themselves. Generally speaking, socializers are generally speaking, yeah? And that's because they've got the ability to get people more excited about their idea than even themselves. Yeah, socializers are the only group who could win an argument not knowing what they're talking about. Yeah, and we look at this in depth and we look at who's fast-paced, slow-paced, analytical, amiable, and we help teams be strategic and build plans based on the maximum of the efficacy and the competency of each person in each category. But we take it to another level, and this is why not all DISC reports are made equal. DISC with the small I, they go into depth. It's not e-DISC or extended DISC or DISC with a big I. It's detailed. It takes it to the next level. We look at your style, your workplace priorities, what motivates you, what stresses you, strategies for effectiveness, you and other styles, how to adapt to other people. How do you work with each other? How do you maximize that relationship in the practice? And again, that's where this foundation comes from. Where do you fit with your team members, with your leader, and more importantly, with your patients? Because not all patients are the same. They don't like information the same way. They have different styles, and we have to adapt to maximize our efficiency and our effectiveness with those people. Very quickly, I know I'm almost out of time, and I am out of time. What do we do? If you don't have this, do it. Build a mission, vision, purpose with goals, strategy, and tactics. If you don't have it, get it. It's really important. And if you do have it, does your team know? Are you sure? I'm asking because the amount of places that we visit and the amount of people we talk to that say, yes, we have it. Yes, they know it. And if I said to the person, can I walk out to the front desk and ask the receptionist to explain it to me? They say, maybe not. So again, the mission, vision, purpose, the goals, the strategy, tactics should be the part of the foundation, part of the building blocks, the structure that help us achieve our goals and implement things like DM. Build the company charter. That's the first step after your behavioral assessment. And motivate your staff. It doesn't matter whether they're a different generation, they're younger, or they're like me, a millennial. I'm one of the good ones, guys. Understand their goals and objectives and values. Understand their behavioral style. That is so important. Help them achieve their goals. That's one thing that I'm going to give you as a big takeaway today. Of those younger generations that you're struggling with because you just don't think they want to work or they don't want to do it, it's not the case. Find out what their goals are, help them achieve it. Link those roles and responsibilities that you're giving them to their goals and to the overall business goals that the charter has laid out. Hold regular one-to-ones and create accountability. And if they don't do what you want them to do and they don't want to achieve their goals, there's got to be consequences, right? We do it through workshops. How do we do it? Well, it's not easy, right? It takes time. Mac team, we spend time in workshops. We coach. We don't leave. We coach. We have regular one-to-ones. We have accountability sessions. We have conflict sessions. And listen, sometimes you've got to ask the question, are they the right fit for your charter or your business? And are you the leader that you want to be? So very quickly, I only had 30 minutes. I never, ever run out of time. And 3 minutes over, Dimmy, is pretty good. And I've only got 3 slides. So
Down to 3 minutes late.
oh, thank you. All right, I'm going to be 6 minutes late. I'm joking. So my question or my takeaways to everybody on the call, are you willing to accept it could be you? It might not be, but are you willing to accept it could be? It's the right first step to your future awesome culture in your business. You can't teach it. You need to create it. Don't get somebody in to teach it. If you're looking for somebody to come in and teach culture, don't call me. But if you need somebody to help you create it, we can definitely help. Build your charter, understand your behavior and your team's behavior, and find out your team's goals. That will open up the door and unlock the key to your future success. My call to action to everybody on the Zoom call is, my father always said, you get 2 of these, and 1 of these. Do something about it. If anybody on the call feels like your culture is not the best culture ever, take action. Do something about it. Yes, you can call us, of course, but do something about it. If you want to implement these changes and make this impact, the biggest impact possible with DM or any of these products that you're trying to implement in your practice, you have to take action and you have to work on your culture alongside these awesome products. So you can contact me, scan the QR code, you'll find our website. On there, you'll find the details of how to contact myself or Dan or Amanda. LinkedIn, we're very active in LinkedIn. We love to post. We talk a lot about culture. We talk a lot about behavioral styles and DISC. And remember, DISC is not, all DISC companies are not made equal. And who delivers it and how you implement it is not equal either. So do your due diligence. Make sure you understand what you're getting and get the right system to build the right foundations. Now, very exciting, Dan and I are starting a new podcast. We're going to have our first one out in the next 4 weeks. It's called Braced for Impact. Dan and I are going to be talking to everybody in the dental and orthodontic industry. No holds barred, nobody's banned, everybody's welcome. It's about opinion. It's about creating an environment where we can have a key person of influence conversation where the dental and orthodontic industry come together and we learn from each other. It's not about selling, it's about sharing best practice, what's coming, what's new, what's challenging, and we'll love to have you on. So if you're interested, reach out to us. We'd love to have you on the podcast, and we'll be talking to various different people, and hopefully we'll get Demi on there at some point, and maybe even Dr. Steve Semaan. Maybe I shouldn't have said that
You'll need
before.
some beepers when I'm on there because I won't be able to help expletives.
No, we'll just beep you, Demi. It'll just be 45 minutes of beeps. So, um, for the opportunity of being on and speaking to you guys, we did work with DM and come up with some sort of discount for you or some complimentary service. We'll do a 60-minute free discovery session for anybody attending this presentation. We'll get the list of everybody that's attended. We'd love to spend some time talking to you. I always say to people, we have a 60-minute conversation. We either leave as partners or we leave as friends. There's no hard feelings. We love to talk to you, understand what your goals and objectives are. For the paid disc assessment, that really in-depth disc assessment where we try and recommend all our customers go, they normally cost about $200 per assessment. We're giving a 20% discount for anybody who would like to get their disc behavioural assessment done, and we'll do that for you for attending this evening. And then whatever work that we do, we'll offer a 10% discount of Mac Team services if they're undertaken in the next 12 months. And practice will need to have signed a training agreement in place by the end of June this year. But hey, let's not worry about that. This is all about me making sure that you leave this session knowing that whatever Steve's going to talk about next and whatever DM are going to share with you in the future, it can't just be product related. We have to think about the culture of the practice. Are your team ready to change? And have you got the right foundations in place to make it happen? Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate your time, and I'm willing to take questions if you have any.
I've got a question.
Yes, please, Steve. Sorry.
That's exciting. Thank you. That was an amazing presentation, Robbie. I've known Dan for 20 plus years, and I don't know what he's done recently to get some more hair on his head in that avatar of Super Dan. Yeah, he's looking good. I'll have to tell him that when I see him next time.
It's amazing what AI
podcast.
Okay,
Yeah,
look, well, Rob, look, thanks very much. I'm just going to echo a lot of the stuff that Rob was presenting on. I mean, for me, trying to build a culture in the team is paramount. It's not always easy, and me being a D, yep, sometimes I'm just screaming orders. But it's true. And I think Bronnie would probably attest to this, is that when I interviewed her for a job many moons ago, one of the first bits of information and the question I said to her is that, it's all about the culture. You need to fit in the culture. Do you think you can? Because irrespective of whether you're a winner or not, it doesn't matter. Culture is far more important. So, Rob, I think, definitely I look at, I'm in and out of practices, every week, and I have been for the last 30 years. Culture is a big thing. And yes, docs, have a look at yourself as well. You're not always as good as you think. Just saying. All right, Steve, let's get you on. So look, I'm not going to introduce Steve with who he is and where he comes from and all his degrees. I want to introduce Steve as someone I've known as a postgrad in orthodontics. Steve has always been someone who's been a bit of an outlier, someone who's pushed the boundaries and always wanted to be successful. It's testament to what he's done with his practice, with just the numbers and the workflows and everything that he does. He's really stuck to his guns and invested in technology and in staff and time. And so, this webinar, and I was talking to Steve about this earlier, this webinar is not about trying to make you Steve, because Steve is Steve. And Steve is sometimes a benchmark. It's like, hey, I don't want to be like Steve Semaan. Hey, I want to be better than Steve Semaan. It's all good. It's all good advertising. So I think what Steve has done over the years is fantastic. It's incredible. And this is all about taking away some workflows, some information about how Steve does this. And, let's do it. Thank you.
Thanks, Demi. G'day, everyone. We obviously would prefer all to be face-to-face and in person and sort of connecting with each other, but we're going to continue to keep the energy and stay as well connected as we can. I apologize in advance if you hear any noise in the background from my 6 kids on school holidays. They've been pretty awesome so far, so we should be safe, but we're going to push on otherwise as we do. And thank you for especially those attendees from New Zealand, being 2 hours ahead. It's a late evening, and I really hope that you feel like it's been an investment to stay up tonight and listen to Rob and myself. Just want to tell you a little bit about my journey. So 2011, at the depths of, as we were coming out of the global financial crisis, I found myself in a position that I needed to start my own business. Wasn't the best time to do it, but I didn't have much choice. And anyway, I had one mindset at the time. I thought, how am I going to set myself apart from all my very, very experienced and far more experienced and skilled colleagues out there. And I decided to put everything into clear aligners. So that's what I decided to do. This is my journey sort of since I actually started in my city on aligners. And you'll see a big take up around 2016 or so that really rocketed my treatment starts sort of to a tenfold kind of amount. And I didn't realize it at the time until I was talking to Dimitri and Mark and Felipe at the time. But it actually, I was thinking to myself, what was it? Because people ask me, what have you done? It's like, what's the secret? How have you just started to do so many Invisalign cases? And there's not one answer, but there's certainly one piece of technology that I implemented, and I didn't realize it until I looked at my numbers and then I looked at the timeline, and it was DM. It was dental monitoring. So we were one of the very, very, very first adopters of dental monitoring. And tonight I really want to help inspire you guys. If you want to grow your practices with either braces or clear aligners, then stay tuned and make sure that you really implement dental monitoring into your practice, because if you're not, you are absolutely missing out. So let's talk really quickly about telehealth. So it's a remote diagnosis and treatment plan of patients by means of telecommunications technology. And, you know, there's always critics. And I heard a lot of people saying things like this to me when I first took it up. Oh, that's not proper patient care. You know, the patient's going to get compromised health because they're not seeing, you know, the orthodontist face to face, and so on and so forth. And then it sort of puts into question, well, is telehealth safe? Well, for those of you who don't know this, telecardiology came along well before dental monitoring and what we do now with orthodontics. And, you know, if cardiologists can, you know, remotely monitor their patients' defibrillators and pacemakers, which literally is a life-saving situation, then we certainly can monitor people's teeth and orthodontic treatment movements. And there's also remote surgery that, you know, gets done by the Da Vinci robot, as some of you may know about as well. And that first took place back in 1998. So telehealth is nothing new. COVID certainly pushed things forward and advanced things. And so we sort of have COVID to thank in a way for that. Certainly been adopted much more widely across the world. So I want to go through some examples of how dental monitoring helps me in my daily office. So for those of you unaware, it'll pick up on aligner fractures really accurately, which obviously our patients don't always pick up on themselves. It'll pick up on lost attachments, which certainly patients aren't aware of 99% of the time, and is incredibly accurate at picking up on it. In fact, when it first started picking this up, I was very skeptical, and I would bring the patient in and I'd want to see for myself that it was missing. And I was just gobsmacked at how accurate it was, even on a second molar. I just still blows my mind how it does it. Lots of buttons. Picks up on those. Gingival recession. Picks up on that very accurately. In fact, so accurately that, again, I'm sort of guessing to see where I can even see the recession sometimes. And you can adjust the sensitivities of the recession and the oral hygiene that it picks up according to what you feel comfortable with to let go or to monitor professionally or to review later on through the patient's treatment. But it's incredibly accurate, far more accurate than we've been able to ever do before remote monitoring came along. We would always sort of reactionary, weren't we, when patient would come in and there was recession. It had already taken place. We couldn't sort of see it progress slowly and then start to make clinical decisions to maybe create some lingual root torque in a lower incisor to avoid further recession, or consider an incisor extraction or premolar extractions, depending on the situation and how severe it was. Poor hygiene, it's incredibly sensitive on the hygiene side of things. Again, you can adjust this if you're not aware, but it's incredibly helpful. And many a time I have literally taken a screenshot and placed it in a letter to the patient's dentist, not dobbing them in, so to speak, but just letting the dentist know that, hey, we don't just care about making the teeth straight. We really care about their hygiene and their health as well. And their dentist really appreciates that. It's also a fantastic medico-legal record for you in case you ever need to use that as a defense, or if a patient develops tooth decay and you've warned them several times about their hygiene and they've just ignored those advice, which is very, very rare. However, they do have that option to ignore our advice and their dentist's advice for that matter, and at least you have a very, very strong legal standpoint there to show how much you've cared every single week of their treatment, rather than just periodically every few months, and things perhaps have gotten too late and too far down the track. It also checks on the cleaning of the appliance, which is very helpful. It shows up tooth decay. You see there's some decay on the upper right lateral incisor there on the medial aspects. Calculus. Tooth staining on where the attachments are. Again, we can take care of these things quickly and clinically before it turns into decalcification and or even decay, cavity. Extrusions that you weren't really planning on, you can pick up on those. You can see the upper left canine is extruded with that Carrier motion appliance, which is quite common when using that appliance for those who use it. Again, we can monitor that and reassure the patient that it's not an issue, or bring them in if we think it's an issue and we want to do something about it. The thing is, you have the opportunity to address things quickly rather than be reactionary again and something's been going on for 12 weeks and now it's gotten really bad and now you've added 3 more months on their treatment time or more, depending on the adverse unwanted tooth movement side effects. And then we have, of course, noticeable unseats. That's the main thing we're looking for in clear aligner treatment. 99% of my practice is clear aligners. So this is what I look at routinely. And then we can make a clinical decision how we want to address that. Do we want to professionally ignore it and monitor it through the rest of the treatment, or at least for a few more weeks to see if it gets better? Do we want to bring them in, do a button elastic, and recapture that tooth? You're the doctor, you get to decide. It's hard to make those decisions if you're only seeing your patients every few weeks. Dental monitoring gives you that chance to see them every week without them being in your office. Gingivitis, again, catch it early before it becomes an issue and turns into periodontitis or other issues. Look at this person. Perfect case of someone who's scanning on time, who has clean aligner appliances, who also has a clean mouth, And interestingly, this patient does have a serious periodontal history. However, she received excellent periodontal care from her dentist and periodontist, and continues to go see them. And we get to keep a very close eye on her health, and she's just killing it. All those green little circles, of course, are just like green lights, and we just keep driving through her treatment. She has not been in my office for over 12 months. You can see there's 53 scans there. That's just over 12 months. That's just truly amazing. You cannot do that without an accurate, sophisticated remote monitoring system, which dental monitoring is. Here's another case. Green lights all the way, as we call it in my office. It's pretty impressive considering where they started, and what we would typically do without remote monitoring was we bring them back and check on the fit of everything, because anything could go off track there, especially those laterals, which would typically go off track, but they're not. We're monitoring it, we're coaching, we're motivating the patient all the way through, but all without needing to bring them into our office, all with pre-templated messages and scripting. And then it's an opportunity for them to interact with us. This patient is quite the character. He's always sending us jokes. And yeah, it's like he never had a job. Always had time to just interact with it. It was incredible. He used to keep my staff very entertained all the way through his treatment. And the thing is, he developed such a relationship through remote monitoring, online, of course, digitally, that some would think there's no way you could actually become mates with somebody, but he became such a mate, Darren, that he, at the end of his treatment, bought a $400 credit at the local cafe next door for our staff to just use, because he was just so thankful for all of their many interactions through dental monitoring. Now, this person, he did interact a lot more than the average person. He was right up there, but he loved interacting with the team, and he appreciated the feedback and the coaching and the mentoring and all the way through. So what are the patient benefits? You don't have any more routine checkup appointments. Optimize treatment time. We're going to go through these one by one, actually. Let's go through them. So think about this for a moment. No more routine checkup appointments. What does that mean? Well, I sat down and thought through 10 benefits that come just from that for the patient. Saves in time and travel costs, saves in time taking time off work, the lost income, and all of that is associated with that. That alone is significant. Saves in time picking up their child from school. This is, of course, assuming it's a child having the appointment. Saves the child catching up on missed schoolwork. Saves time and stress from finding car park. Saves them time checking into your office. Saves them time waiting in your waiting room. Saves them the entire appointment time, of course, in your clinic for a routine checkup. And saves them time checking and making another appointment on their way out. And then saves them the time walking to the car and driving to the next destination. Now, if you add that all up, that's a significant amount of time. And I do believe I read a study done not too long ago that added this all up, and it's basically on average about 2 hours on average. So out of a parent's day, which adds up and is significant. Optimize treatment time. You ever gone on a journey with someone who doesn't know the directions how to get there? So DM helps you identify issues quickly, like a broken bracket, teeth not tracking, so that you can address them sooner, and this saves the patient going off track and gets them back onto track quickly. I'm going to tell you a quick story about a patient called Roy. He is basically a very busy executive, wanted everything done today or yesterday, and despite every bit of instruction we gave him, he must be one of these disc profilers. Let me see if I got this right, Robbie. A commander, worst listener. That's my guess. Anyway, despite all our instructions, he decided to just, this is before DM. Sorry, let me just make that clear. This is before DM came along. So we told him to, he would just change him every few days. He didn't listen to our instructions. And then when he turned up for his routine, sorry, that's my reminder to my time. So before when he came back for his routine checkup, he was way off track. He felt that everything fit well according to his expert knowledge, which was zero in the field of orthodontics. And of course, being the personality type that he was, even though he knew it was his fault for moving too quickly through it, we somehow got the blame. He wasn't too happy. And then when we told him he had to wait and we had to get new aligners and rescan him, and that was going to take weeks, then he was going to have to come back and get those, and he hadn't gone as far ahead as he thought he had. He was not one happy camper. This all could have been resolved had he used dental monitoring. It wasn't around at the time, but it just highlighted to me the value of it. You get increased patient engagement. Increased motivation. We know there's the Hawthorne effect that it has. Now, patients know we're keeping an eye on them. They're more likely to be motivated through something. They're feeling responsible, accountable. Better hygiene. We know that. Or I think I skipped one. No, that was it. Sorry, my apologies. Shorter wait times. So before DM, used to have a typical wait time for about 6 weeks. And it blew out even more when I'd go away and speak or go on holidays. And then DM brought that down to 1 to 2 weeks. Would you like a shorter wait list? Use DM. People actually prefer not to come to our office, as nice as we are, as funny as we are, as nice as our profile, our personalities are. They prefer not to come in. They're busy. What about for the business, though? What are the benefits there? These are the 9 benefits I've seen routinely in my office. Let's go through them. Significantly fewer aligners, refinements. And I conducted some research with one of my residents at the European University College in Dubai, where I'm an assistant professor. And we looked at 180 patients. There's a reference article for those who are struggling to go to sleep tonight. You might want to look that up. But one of the findings that we found was in my office, a 39% reduction in refinements. If I told you, hey, I've got something that will help you reduce your aligner refinements by nearly 40%, I think you'd be interested. And you should be. Well, dental monitoring is that. Significantly fewer appointments. Again, based on the same studies. Our average before DM was 7.6 appointments, which was pretty awesome. Please bear in mind that those are based on a 10 to 12 week interval that I had at the time, which isn't typical for orthodontic offices doing clear aligners. And then DM brought that down to 3.5. Again, if I said to you, I could halve the number of your appointment times, would you be interested? You should be. It doesn't matter what I'm about to share with you, whether it's Mac team, or dental monitoring, whatever it is. Some new snake oil that I'm showing you, if it genuinely reduces your appointments by roughly half, I think you should listen and take note. More predictable outcomes. It helps you become a better treatment planner. I was able to see that in some cases, things are going off track, not because someone was not compliant, but because I programmed in ridiculous types of tooth movements, like in this case, over 3 millimeters of extrusion on the upper incisors. It's not going to happen. That's why that case went off track. Be prepared to fail, though. All right. It's all about learning, and you're not going to find out until you just get in there and give it a crack. It improves patient compliance. Happier patients lead to happier staff. It can be your unique selling proposition for your practice. You want to be memorable. It reduces your wait list, as I said before, and it frees up your schedule. What are you going to do with that extra time? Whatever you like. See more patients, work less, hire another doctor, whatever you like. Improves your profitability. These are from my practice. Run your own numbers. Find out for yourself. Please bear in mind, though, that if you're not doing about 65% of your share of chair and clear aligners, you're not going to see any numbers like this. This is from doing a vast majority of my cases with aligners. And the tipping point is at about 64, 65%. And that's been shown over thousands of practices in the US from an accounting company called Benson and Koppel. They've shown that over and over again. We finally have a measurable way to prescribe a line of progression, know that things fit well, and a patient can truly move on, not treating everyone the same. Dental monitoring shows you over 180 different clinical and dental situations. It's remarkable. There is no way that we have the time to go through that entire list every single time we see our patient. And yet, one scan goes through all of those things. Why and how? In two words, artificial intelligence. Why wouldn't you do that for all your patients? Put them through all of that, those filters. They love checking the treatment progress. They share it with their friends, they put it online. It's instant communication. You can do it from your smartphone or your desktop. Now, in terms of how we handle things in my office, well, we sat down as a team. We decided, well, what would we normally do if they came in the office and we saw something like a slide unseat? And then we just sat down and with a whiteboard, just started pointing arrows. Okay, well, if it's one tooth that's got a slide unseat, you know, well, let's see. If it has an attachment on it, we're going to do this. If it doesn't have an attachment on, we would do that. And we just came out with these decision trees. We just made them up. With multiple teeth, we'd handle that a little differently. Just think to yourself, if it came in that situation, sitting in your chair, literally physically in your office, what would you do? What would you say? What action steps would you take? And then write those things down. And that's how you sort of come up with your protocols. We are creatures of habit, and we do things routinely in the same way in most of those similar situations. That's how AI works. Basically patterns itself and learns processes and compares things. It makes decisions. How do we handle unseats? Same thing. Sit down, talk about them. They're a little more complicated, so the decision tree flow is a little more complicated. But once you've got it all set, you then implement it. If you need help with this, your DM rep will help you. In the interest of time, I might just skip through. I'll show this one, sorry. So here's a patient with a noticeable unseat on the 4-3. I looked at their clean check and realized that the tooth had an attachment firstly, and the tooth was, in my opinion, a little beyond what it should have been. So I decided clinically, and it's off our decision tree, to bring them in. My staff know this. They don't have to come and consult me. They check the dental monitoring notice. They go through the decision tree. They bring the patient in. They book them in. Hygienist takes off the attachment, button and elastic. They book them in 2 to 4 weeks later and check it out again. At first, I was checking all of these, and then my staff, I trust them after a while of doing the same thing of checking it. They know when it seats back in place. Dental monitoring again confirms that. And then the attachment goes back on, and they keep going through their treatment. It's a different situation. Tooth 1-1 and 2-1 are off track. Noticeable unseats. And there's some slight unseats on the laterals. Again, after checking the ClinCheck and realizing that it's a very complex movement that it's going through, a button elastic isn't going to recapture those teeth. And so the clinical decision based on the decision tree again is to bring them in for what we call an MCC, or back then mid-course correction. In other words, remove attachments off the teeth that are off track, rescan them, and design and order new aligners. All from a decision tree. There are situations where I decide to silence or, professionally ignore certain teeth. In other words, I don't want dental monitoring to keep monitoring that tooth. Otherwise, it's going to hold them up in treatment as a no-go. Let's go through an example. So here's an example here, great compliance. There's no attachments on the 4-2. I've checked the tooth movements on that patient. That tooth is intruding anyway, and I've decided clinically that that tooth's just a little ahead of schedule. So we're going to silence it. We're going to ignore it so that they can actually progress with their treatment. And PMG just stands for patient monitored guidance, which means they keep an eye on it and we also keep an eye on it. And we set a little virtual appointment, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever I think is right. Again, you're the doctor, you decide. No one's telling you what to do. But we set a little virtual appointment on the day sheet, and we review that. If it's getting worse, we might bring them in and decide we're going to do a mid-course correction, or it's getting better. We keep ignoring it, stretch it out, let them keep going on with their treatment. In the interest of time, I'm just going to skip through. Here's another situation just quickly. So I'm extruding the 1-6 and 4-6 using some elastics and getting some class 2 correction at the same time. Those teeth are extruding pretty quickly. And so I'm going to, I've made a decision to ignore or silence the 1-6 and the 4-6 because I don't know exactly how quickly that's going to take place. And I'm confident that the aligner will capture the teeth. They just need to wear their elastics. So I don't need dental monitoring to monitor those teeth. They will be captured and the aligner will hold them. They won't go any further because that's how the aligner is designed, is to take them to a certain point, and that's it. Here's some questions I often get asked. Is dental monitoring worth the cost? You might be sitting there right now asking yourself that question. Well, if you haven't sat down and worked out the cost per hour of yourself and your staff in your office, you need to do that. Otherwise, there's a lot of decisions that you can't make properly for your business. And I can tell you it costs several hundreds of dollars per appointment, not just even per hour, but per appointment, just to have a patient in your chair. So dental monitoring reduces the number of appointments. And so that's reducing the cost by many, many, many hundreds of dollars. Even if it just saved you one appointment, which it easily does. Remember, there's no more routine check appointments. It pays for itself. Average treatment time 18 months. Roughly, it's going to cost you, give or take, $300, depending on which country you're in. So it pays for itself. And you also save. So it makes you more profitable. Do I charge for my patients for the dental monitoring service? No, I don't. It's just a decision I made many years ago. If I'm adopting new technology, it's helping me and it's helping the patient. If it helps me save any kind of time or appointments, I'm not going to charge them for that. In fact, if anything, I've often passed the savings on. That's your decision. Do we make it optional? I know some offices do. I would recommend not making it optional. It's the gold standard of treatment, so we offer that to every patient. It's part of what we do. Who's not eligible? Well, those people who are phone illiterate. Not many of them these days, but some of the elderly do fall into that category. If someone's genuinely not interested, which is, again, very rare, or if someone's really young or super anxious and just overwhelmed, we just baby step them through it, and we can often help an overwhelmed person get into it. How much time does it take? That's a rare question I get asked a lot. back when I ran this research, that was years ago now, it was roughly 1 hour per 100 patients per week day, which means basically I had, at the time I did this research, about 1,000 patients being monitored on dental monitoring, and it took about 10 hours per day, so full-time staff clinical role, and I work 4 days a week, so that's 40 hours for the week. That's me being reminded I'm running out of time. Whoopsie, sorry. Let's skip that one. Summary slide. Thanks to DM, I have shorter waiting lists, reduced by more than half. These are all backed by that research that I conducted with my resident. Fewer patient appointments, 20% reduction in that. 0 routine check appointments, shorter treatment times, 17% shorter. Less refinements, we spoke about that, 39%, and a more profitable business, $236 per visit to be exact. That's my patients through that study. Yours maybe a lot more. Greater control of my patient's treatment. Where do you go from here? Well, if you haven't already, take the plunge and jump in, get into DM. If you've already jumped into DM, but you're just dipping your toes, like doing 30 or 50 cases or being selected who you're going to do it on, you need to go all in. In other words, every patient on DM. Otherwise, you'll never get great at it, and you'll never ever see the true benefits. And then the other thing is you need your whole team to jump in on that. And that's going to be tied into what Rob spoke about with the culture. It's having the right kind of culture. At my office, I tell them the only constant thing about our team and our business is constant change. We're always improving, always looking for better ways to make our lives more comfortable, happy, fun, treatment better, and an experience for the patient as well. And most of all, DM is the gold standard, and without it, you have no way of truly knowing where the treatment is tracking. It's also a robust medico-legal defense, and your patients actually want and prefer and appreciate it. It's also been shown in research that I didn't have time to show you tonight. It pays for itself. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Steve. Some questions, folks. Oh, one's typing. No questions at all. Everyone's still on.
Don't be shy.
At all. Any questions? Okay. I probably, Steve, but what I probably would like to say is that, when you're talking about going all in, and irrespective of, what your percentage and share of chair is in your practice, if you're only monitoring 20% of your patients, then you're only benefiting 20% of your business. You're missing out on the other 80% that you could be benefiting from by just not monitoring. So it's a good thing to think about. And why would you not want your entire practice and all your patients to benefit? Why would you only leave it to 20 or 30%? This sort of doesn't make sense. I think we do have a question.
Yeah, Dr. Gallotta asked if I use it on fixed cases. Yes, I do. I hardly do fixed cases these days, but the short answer is yes.
Probably back to my comment just then also, Nino, it's the same thing. Why not benefit from all of your patients so your practice benefits completely?
100%.
Any other questions? I think we might be done. Look, Steve, thank you. Always very informative. Like I continually say, you're an outlier and a benchmark in this industry. You were definitely one of the first people to use DM. Certainly, probably the first person to use dynamic scheduling or as appointments on demand that we initially called it.
Yep.
Big leap of faith, but obviously worth the investment. You can't
100%.
see a patient over a 12 to 15-month treatment only 4 times without some sort of remote monitoring. That's for sure.
Yeah, I showed that case of Karen, who's 53 aligners in a row, not one in-office visit, everything right on track. She's happy.
Unbelievable.
We're happy. Hasn't cost us anything in the office. All of her messages are all automatically going back to her. So I'm not literally sitting down every week saying, "Good job, Karen. Keep going. Good job, Karen." I've already prescribed that template answer, and it's going out. And we have more than one answer, so it can be mixed up. So it's not sort of repetitive and looks like no one's caring, or it's the same answer always going out. So that's one of the really clever, behind the scenes things that DM does, is it automates and sort of mixes up the messages, which is really helpful.
And the other thing too is that when we're talking about the 1 hour per 100 patients, what we're seeing is that is also being reduced and will continually reduce, because as our protocols are getting better, we've got a whole new bunch of protocols called best practice protocols. So using everybody's protocols around the world, who are benchmarking, and I'm sure Steve, yours are in there. They're making things far more efficient for the practice and for the patient. But also we are, soon rolling out Gen AI. And Steve, I think you just started to use Gen AI. That will start to help you script answers back to patients, and it'll really streamline some time. I know it's probably early days, Steve. But
I can speak on it if you're allowed.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. Well, Demi's given me the green light on it, so I signed an NDC not to say anything, but I've got the green light to go ahead. So in the near future, you will all get to enjoy what I've just started to enjoy recently, which is, think of it like ChatGPT has a child with DM, and basically the questions that come in from our patients, the ChatGPT sort of AI reads the question, comes up with some answers that you can choose from based on not just orthodontic knowledge, but also based on what you have told the patient previously, which is truly remarkable and incredible. It basically, it's kind of like what we do, basically. Like, if a patient asks me a question, I'll often go back and look over the other questions that they've asked me, how their treatment's gone, and provide the best as possible answers as I can, as do my team, who are trained to do the same. But it does it for you. So it is saving us a lot of time replying back to those very unique questions that you may not have templated answers to. We've had quick replies for a long time now, for those who are familiar with that, and that's been incredibly useful. But it's just that times 10. It's like 10 notches above that. So it's truly remarkable. It's a testament to how DentalMonitoring just keep focusing in on improving and just providing us as doctors and teams with amazing resources, and just keep improving their service. Therefore, that allows us to improve what we provide to our patients. So thank you to DM for doing that. The other thing I wanted to mention, another question that I get asked is, how much time am I as an orthodontist spending on DM each day? And you won't believe this, but there are days that I don't spend any time on it. Other days I spend 10 to 15 minutes. So that is just truly remarkable if you think about that. But that's the ability of leveraging. That's the ability of doing a lot of liner cases. That's the ability of using something like DentalMonitoring, which is so sophisticated and able to handle large numbers, large questions and answers and inputs and outputs, and the ability to have your staff trained to know how to answer something, because you've sat down and we see things over and over again. And
undertaking
so
that to create your decision trees. Sorry, Steve. I was just saying, it's also the time that you and your staff have sat down together and created these decision trees. You and your team know where to go.
Correct. And all orthodontists do. It's just literally sitting down and just asking, just thinking through different scenarios. Okay, what would we do if there was some recession, and the patient was sitting in my chair and I saw some recession on the lower incisor? I'm like, what would I do? What would I say? Let's just type that down. And that was before the days of ChatGPT. Man, I wish that was around. So now with ChatGPT, especially if you subscribe to the paid version, or these other ones, Grok and Copilot, and there's just so many of them now. It's just exciting where the future's going. Are our jobs safe? Absolutely. But are we going to be working more smartly and less stressed? Absolutely. We're going to have to kind of keep reinventing the wheel each time a situation develops. The AI will help us, especially as I get older, I get more forgetful, but I'm getting less forgetful with the help of ChatGPT, recognizing something going on in my patient's treatment, whether it's a tooth off track or a broken brace or whatever it is, and we instinctively know as a team how to respond to that. And my last thing I just share with everyone is when I first started using DM, I chose a DM coordinator, which was advised to do, and it was very helpful. But if that person was away, then we would fall behind on doing our, DM work, so to speak. Nowadays, my entire team all know what DM is and are all focused in some way. My treatment coordinators explain it to the new patient. My reception know how to explain it over the phone and also know how to deal with common things that people ring up about. My clinical staff know how to check notifications and how to handle those. There is not anybody on, even my lab tech knows how to use dental monitoring and helps in a small way. So basically my advice to you is to use your entire team and split up what used to be in our office one person's job. It's now split up amongst the whole team. So it's little bits that each person on the team do. So if one person's away, only that little bit doesn't get done by them that day, but that little bit could be split up amongst 2 or 3 other staff, and that's just an extra 5 minutes of work for them, or 10 at best. Hope that makes sense, but it's leveraging and using your whole team, and not being vulnerable to someone leaving for any reason. Poor culture could be one of them. Robbie would say possibility, but could be any reason, sick, whatever. Job doesn't get done that day. Well, that doesn't happen anymore in my office.
That's it for questions for everyone. Look, thank you, Steve. Thank you, Rob. I think the synergy between talking about culture and staff and implementing new products, and DM admittedly is not always an easy product to implement, that's for sure. So I think having the right culture, having the right leader, absolutely paramount to be able to make implementing something brand new successful. So I really thank you both. I hope some of you will contact Rob and maybe see what he can do. And then I also hope that you all listen to what Steve has said and implement some of the things he's talked about, because the success of his practice is the key, and it shows that it's worked over many, many years. So I really thank you both. I thank you, everyone, for taking your own time out to listen, and we'll update you with a new webinar very soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Take care.
Cheers.